We tend to think that Muslims are stupid people, that they're going to forget that the United States supported tyranny for 35 years. We also have become, at least in our political elite, almost Marxist-Leninists in our belief that democracy is the answer to everything and that it's going to take hold everywhere. And what we've created since Runnymede here in North America and England is going to be recreated in the Muslim world in 18 days. I just don't think it's becoming a president or a secretary of state or the war boys, Senator McCain and Senator Graham, to be arguing somehow that democracy is afoot. When clearly it's not.
Well, look, Michael, first I have to disagree with your premise in terms of the overarching view of the Islamic world. And I think there is much greater nuance in the relationship that the President and the Secretary of State and the United States senators, whom you mentioned, are trying to craft with the new leadership. Everybody understands, do they not, that this is a moment of transition. This is a moment where the old ideologies, the old governing structures throughout North Africa and the Middle East are being pushed aside by what is a genuine uprising from the grassroots of the populace. Nobody knows with any certainty where it will go. And I think if you listen to the Fareed Zakarias, the Fuad Ajamis, the real experts in the region, they all say there is enormous uncertainty, but certainly it is better to begin to forge the relationship in terms of the common notions of tolerance, freedom, secular democracy that we believe in, not believing it will take root overnight, but certainly to articulate those views, than to be a hands-off and let tyranny reestablish itself. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't. I think Mr. Zakaria and Mr. Ajami know about as much about what's going on there as my chair does. They don't like the idea of Islamist governments, and so naturally their analysis is going to be that they're not happening. Just like Mrs. Clinton, just like Senator Graham, just like the President. CNN and BBC interviewed a few score Muslims in Tahrir Square, all of whom were English-speaking, most were clean-cut, most were professionals, and they talked the talk of democracy. Then they read a few Facebooks and a few Twitters, and they extrapolated that sample to 85 million Muslims, half of whom or more are illiterate. So the West has really got a skewed idea of what's happening in that country. And across the region, sir. It's madness.
Michael, with all due deference to your deep expertise in the region, you have many years.
I didn't claim I had deep deference, sir. What I'm claiming is that 85 million Muslims are not going to go in the direction of a democracy they consider irreligious or perhaps even pagan, rather than toward 1,400 years of tradition.
Michael, let's agree on something. First of all, I think Fareed Zakaria and Fuad Ajami are enormously expert, knowledgeable individuals about the region in particular. And the one thing I would say is that nobody thinks Jeffersonian democracy is going to spring up overnight, that somehow the Bill of Rights that is enshrined in our Constitution will be embraced by 85 million Egyptians. Nobody obviously believes that. But what
you weren't listening to CNN then, sir, during the Tahrir Square business.
Well, again, Michael, with all deference, I think I was listening to it. I was often here. But I think here's the larger point. What we are saying is that there is an arc of history and that there is movement in a particular direction. And while we don't have any illusions about where it will end up, and we all understand Iran and what has happened in Afghanistan time and time again, what we are saying is that positioning our foreign policy no longer behind the tyrants, but in front of the popular movement in favor of those ideals that George W. Bush articulated in terms of democracy, that seems to make sense. I'll give you the last couple of seconds. You obviously think I'm wrong. Tell me why.
I think Bush was wrong. I think Clinton was wrong. I think this guy is wrong. It's just not going to happen in the way you think it's going to happen, sir. And even if it did, if we had democracy from Mauritania to Jordan, what those governments would have to reflect popular opinion. And what you would have is the greatest anti-Israeli movement that you've ever seen in your life, because Israel is hated more than anything in the Islamic world.